ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Big Wil Spotlight. We're going to discuss movies the Oscars don't care about. We're going to discuss movies that you care about. So go ahead, get yourself something to eat. Get yourself something to drink. Sit back and relax with your popcorn and your date as we go to Big Wil Spotlight with your hosts, Big Wil, Dr. Quack, and the important one, Mr. Mayhem.
Everybody, welcome back to another edition of Big Wil Spotlight. I am your host, Big Wil.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. And apparently we've got a lot of tired people out here because this is a big topic.
Oh, it's a very big topic. And hey, it's actually kind of good just to have us for in such a long time anyway.
Very true. Very true. Because between next week being Easter and this week is WrestleMania, there's a lot of people who stayed up too late, so they were unavailable. So we get to talk about James Bond and Iam Fleming.
Iam Fleming. Hey, first thing I got to point out, though, most people don't even know this. I got pointed out to me, and I was like, no. Iam Fleming actually wrote the book for Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yes. The movie didn't follow a lot of the book.
Did not follow it pretty much at all, but maybe names or something like that. It was adapted into a musical, which then Disney picked up, and that's what we ended up getting for people who have seen the movie. So,
yes. But it's a great movie, and it's also actually a really good book. I mean, if you're expecting when you read the book to get Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the movie, you're not going to get it.
Love you. Oh, no, I won't get it.
You're not going to get that because the book is a little more dark, but it's a good book and a good movie.
Yes, it is. It's a good movie. But now that that's taken out of the way and getting away from musicals.
Yes, and the obligatory spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alerts. Hey, so then, thing that you need to know, Iam Fleming, great writer in the first place. He was a naval officer in, Britain, of course.
Yes. He was part of the intelligence service for the naval services of the Queen and Crown.
So, won't say that he got a lot of his inspiration from his work during World War I. And I mean, it reflected in the first couple. I mean, they, of course, had to adapt to move forward with a time frame, which we'll get into some of those movies that they didn't need to try and rush into the future kind of thing, but that's all then and there.
Yeah, so the funny thing about the books is if you try and read the books in order the way they were written, having already seen the movies, they're already out of order. The first movie of what's called the canon or the EOS version of James Bond starts with Dr. No in 1962. Dr. No is his 6th of 14 books. So they're not in order. Spectre is not revealed to be something in the first book. It's something that's slightly revealed in the first movie.
And if anybody paid a little bit of attention there, he did mention 14 books, and there are 27 movies. So, yes, the great Iam Fleming only wrote the 14 books. His kids are now carrying on. And I won't just say his kids. I'm sure there are several people involved.
Yes.
With the next set of 13 going to be 14. If you didn't know, they are coming out with another James Bond,
Yes.
a 26 movie.
Yep, with a new person playing Bond. Daniel Craig has left the production to the best of our knowledge.
And not to take away from Daniel Craig, he's probably the most action actor of all of the James Bond characters.
Yes.
So, yes, a lot of his movies were action-packed. Not to say some of the other ones weren't, but Pierce Brosnan, he wasn't quite the action person that Daniel Craig was. How about
No,
that?
that's fair. He was a little bit older and came from a different style of acting, especially with doing things like Remington Steele. He was more of a TV guy than he was an action movie guy. He did good.
He did
I
good.
definitely won't complain. People that have studied the works of Ian Fleming say that Pierce Brosnan has been actually the closest overall definition of what Ian Fleming saw as James Bond. That one and Timothy Dalton, which most of the people actually didn't like.
Timothy Dalton, yeah, he was another one of the ones that probably portrayed James Bond one of the best. I'm not, don't take away, Sean Connery is still going to end up being the number one on everybody's list. I'm not going to take it away. A Scotsman playing an Englishman.
I was about to say Ian Fleming, because Ian Fleming died in 1964. And as we said, Dr. No came out in 1962. Ian Fleming did not, under any circumstance, want Sean Connery being from Scotland, and he is a true Brit from Southern England. Ian Fleming did not want Sean Connery. And until he saw the second movie, he finally bought into it.
Because, yes, I mean, the suaveness of James Bond was probably portrayed best by Sean Connery.
Yes.
I'll give it that one.
Yes, I would agree.
All right. Roger Moore. I really don't know what to say. I'm not going to take away. He was in great James Bond movies. He did, the part that he was supposed to do, but
I equate this to Roger Moore. Now, I started out obviously watching Roger Moore first and then catching up by watching Sean Connery. And yes, Sean Connery has more suaveness, more sophistication to the character. Roger Moore brought subtlety.
Okay, maybe that's where
he brought a little bit of humor that was needed, a little bit of humanity to a character so that he didn't come off as so stodgy. He brought a little humanity to that character.
All right.
Yes, he wasn't as the movies got later on, there was less and less subtlety about it. But when you watch the first one he did in the United States,
I don't know. I'm just thinking of the first one I ever saw, which was For Your Eyes Only. Well, the first one I can say I remember watching. How about that? So we had For Your Eyes Only, and then you're gonna make me try and get them all out of order and everything like that.
It's okay. It's okay. But he started out being kind of subtle about what he was intending and what he was looking for. As it advanced, it kind of went away a little bit. But that's what he brought to the character.
All right. Don't know why. George Lazenby, we'll throw that one out there. We'll talk about that one first. How about that? Because he was only in one.
Yes, on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
So I couldn't tell you what the problem with him playing the character and him being continued on before it went back to Sean Connery and then went to Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple of Roger Moores, and they did a one-off with Sean Connery, and then went back to Roger Moore. So the reason George Lazenby, a lot of people, there's no official answer. The thing is that he decided not to continue forward with his contract. Now, George Lazenby is Australian. He is not British. That may have been the problem. But they may have also brought him in because On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the one movie that is very different from everything else. This is the one James Bond gets married and his wife gets killed. So they may have brought him in so that he's not always attached to one of the more well-known actors. There's no official story. The only thing we get is he chose not to continue on.
All right. Oh, God. We got so many bad guys to talk about.
Yes. Well, let's start off with the best bad guy who actually made it into two movies. The only bad guy to make it into two movies with the same actor.
Okay.
Jaws.
Jaws was in wasn't in For Your Eyes Only. He
Nope.
was in Moonraker, and he was also in, what was it, Thunderball?
Nope. We're gonna have to pull them out. We want to make
What?
sure we're
No!
giving you the right order here. No, it's important that you know the right order. It was The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay, there it is. Yes, Jaws. I thought he was in more than just two, but most of the recognized character. But there was okay. We'll get Jaws out of the way. How about that? Yes, I mean he was big, strong. Man, be able to rip doors off hinges, and teeth were metal, and he was able to bite through anything.
Yes. Jaws was played by a man by the name of Richard Keel was the actor. He is a very large man, over 7 feet tall. We got a good thing in here. Connery came back. Yes, it was. We'll talk about that a little bit more about this comment right here. Yes, Connery came back for a movie, but it was out of order, or it's not technically out of order. It's considered non-canon. But you may know, for some of you younger people, you may know Richard Keel. He was in the movie Happy Gilmore. He was the big guy with the nail sticking out of his head. And he really enjoyed the part. He was a very memorable character, very, very enjoyable. One of the few bad guys to come back as the same actor.
Same character, yes. I mean, yeah, he took parts, and I don't even remember if he actually had any speaking roles.
Well, he did some speaking roles, but nothing in the Bond series.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about in the Bond series. Yeah, I mean, he's done several movies. Just to point out, you already pointed out Happy Gilmore. He wanted to do something like that so that people just didn't think he was like some big, gigantic, huge, angry man. You gotta have diversity to you. I mean, here locally, I've seen him in several commercials for a spy shop. I'm going to call it a spy shop, but they've got like where you got the hidden cameras and listening devices and all that stuff. And he's the one that comes on there and promotes it. So, I mean,
it's true. He's now the character that why we had the quantifier or say that with the same actor playing it. The main villain in the first several movies is Ernst Stavros Blofeld.
That's his name.
He is the head of the agency known as Spectre.
With the white cat.
Yes.
That's all you ever remember. He had the white cat.
But he was never played by the same actor twice.
All right. But he was probably the main bad guy for most film series.
For most of them. I mean, he was the Spectre was such a memorable agency that when they finished up through the original movies, they brought it back later.
Into a movie called Spectre.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go. But the funny thing about the way the movies are designed, a lot of people think this is a history of one person named James Bond, and that's not the case. A lot of people get a little bit confused that James Bond is a code name. That's why you can change the actors, and it doesn't change the effect of who that person is.
What? You mean 007 goes along with the name James Bond? Yeah, you can change it over. It's just title. There we go.
Yes, it's a title. So that's the thing that throws a lot of people off of why we keep changing actors and how he can stay alive all this time. Well, actors move on, but stories don't. So that was planned in that it's the character and title, which is even the same as in the book.
So now we're talking about that, though, because they haven't put out many details about the 26th movie that they're coming out with. And like I pointed out at the very end of the last show, but I don't think they've actually decided on whether they want to go with having a female character or sticking with male characters at the time.
And if they do go with one of the ones that seems to be in the running mentioned a lot, Idris Elba, now James Bond becomes a black man.
Which is a continuation of just it being the title, and I don't know if I could call it rank or anything like that. I mean,
Well, he's a lieutenant commander in the
I'm
Royal
just
Navy.
saying, after 007, would you move up to 006, 005, or is it just a placement in?
It's just basically there's no hierarchy order of the numbers. The first one dies off.
Yep. Okay, that's cleared up. So I mean, they can bring anybody in to do the part. And I don't know about a woman being called Jane, but no.
Well, James won't bring his name as James,
Okay, works then.
so they can become Jamie King or Jane Bond. Jane Bond, yeah, you never know. We'll find out when we get there.
Yes, and it's still be determined.
Yes.
So, ended up talking about Spectre a little bit, so we'll get the rest. A couple of wrestlers that have actually been in James Bond movies.
Yes.
But for the people who are younger of who would end up seeing us anyway, Batista was in Spectre. He was the main bad guy. Well, I can't say the main bad guy.
Henchman of the main bad guy.
The main henchman. Got to introduce that brand new Jaguar that they were starting to come. I can't say it like you guys do. I'm sorry, Jaguar. Sorry. But he would introduced that new one with the tops. It just seemed like it was the tops came off of it and was just like, that is badass.
Yes, I agree. Then speaking of that, that's something that always the James Bond series, it didn't come out that way in the books. The Q branch is really kind of just a little side character. But Desmond Llewellyn, the first Q for the first 18 movies or so before he passed away, he made the character become something. It wasn't supposed to be a big thing, and he made it something. That's about the talent of Desmond Llewellyn.
Yes, he made Q what it was. I mean, also goes to prove that when changing James Bond, you didn't change Q. It's just a rotating name. Rank. Well, I can't say rank.
Yeah, well, Q for quartermaster. That's what the Q stands for.
And after he passed, to keep the Q version going on, bringing in John Cleese as a great comic relief for Q.
Yeah.
So he goes to the quartermaster, and you get a little bit of comedy in your movie. I mean, that was some great thinking, right? I like it a lot.
And then when they spun back to start with Daniel Craig, they kind of started again from the beginning where they tried not to introduce the Q branch too much, but again everybody's like, wait, where's Q branch? So they had to kind of write that back in.
And I mean, Q, it was one of the better parts of the thing. I mean, you had to have your gadgets. I'm sorry, there was nothing else.
I agree with that statement there. Cleese was an awesome Q.
Yes, great. In fact, I just ended up watching Life of Brian earlier this morning. So
there you go.
Mean, yeah, he played several parts in that. But Eric Idle, he's got the best part in that whole movie. And
yes,
but either way, we're getting away from James Bond now.
It's okay. Well, let's since we're talking about getting away from James Bond, this comment was brought up here that Connery did come back for one movie. Excuse me. And that movie was Never Say Never Again. That was the movie. Now it's considered not non-EOS or non-canon from the standpoint of that it's one of the books, but it wasn't done by the original company, so they didn't have control over what happened, so they don't count it as part of the canon.
All right. I mean, people want to take their rights and claim them, and they don't want to act like they don't accept that it was part of it.
Right.
I give them that, but I mean, same time to consumers, it almost didn't make any difference.
Very true. But Never Say Never Again came out in 1983. Roger Moore took over in 1973 with Live and Let Die.
That one probably had the best well, most memorable soundtracks.
It had a great soundtrack, exactly, and a very memorable boss, Mr. Big.
Mr. Big. I mean, yeah, I mean, for the most part, a lot of the movies you end up not even remembering the main bad guy's name. I mean, short of Zorn.
Yeah, well, Christopher Walken owned that.
Yeah,
part.
he owned that part. So I mean, being at home and great Tanaka, you know, Doctor.
Odd job.
Yeah, odd job. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of them that you just. Who was the bad guy in that movie? Yeah. So I mean, just remembering a lot of them, and then you know, you got to bring in some of the Bond girls. I mean, so we were on Live and Let Die. That's kind of what brought me towards that point. And Jane Seymour and some of the costumes that she had.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was probably that was some of the most memorable parts of the movie. Besides,
Yes.
you know.
1973, Live and Let Die. Jane Seymour, who became Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, and many other things. She does a lot of Hallmark movies. Live and Let Die was her debut. And she was a Bond girl in her debut. She played the character Solitaire.
Did a very good job with it and everything like that. And I mean, like I say, I mean, what?
I don't know if I would call Kim Basinger the best Bond girl.
That was the one, the Living Daylights, wasn't it? I don't remember.
I'm trying to think about it, but Maude Adams, she actually played 2 Bond girls. Also, Tanya Roberts would be a great Bond girl.
No, that's the one I'm thinking of with Zorn. Tanya Roberts.
Yeah, Tanya Robertson.
In
A View to a Kill.
There we are. I really don't remember Kim Basinger being a Bond girl.
It's okay. We can always look that up. But let's talk about now probably the most well-known Bond movie, but maybe not for a Bond reason. GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. I don't know how many of y'all were out there like GoldenEye. Okay, how many of y'all didn't know it was a 007? Well, I can't say that. It says it right on there on the title page, 007. GoldenEye. It was probably the most played game on the 64, Nintendo 64. Sorry, I know some of y'all have probably never even heard of it.
Yeah. It's okay.
But I mean, before there were actual, like, I don't want to say cross platforms, the internet. Let's just go there. Mm-hmm. You get like 4 of your buddies over there playing that game, just going through the levels. I mean, it was nonstop play.
It was nonstop play. That is true. And the movie got a repopularity because of the Nintendo 64 game. Because the game came out a year after it came out of the theaters, and it actually went back into the theaters for a little while. That's how popular the N64 game was.
But to also point out, it also did have the old characters from some of the other movies, Odd Job and I can't remember the little guy. Knick-Knack. There we go. That was one of my favorites to play as. Nobody ever saw you.
Yeah. And Knick-Knack came from The Man with the Golden Gun. That was where we get Christopher Lee as a Bond.
Oh, yes, Christopher Lee. Most of y'all would probably not know him for that kind of stuff. He until he ended up being in Star Wars.
Yeah, but Christopher Lee did like 200 movies, to include some real stinkers. Like he was Willy Wonka's dad in the Johnny Depp version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That really exists, folks. And I do agree with this when it comes to the bad girls. Famke.
Yes.
Famke from GoldenEye. For those of you who only don't know the name, Famke Janssen, she plays Jean Grey in the original X-Men movies.
She is also in Taken.
Yeah.
I mean, she's The House on Haunted. No, not The House on Haunted.
But yeah, so
yeah, one of those. But I mean, yeah, she was in a lot of movies too.
But Christopher Lee did a great job in Man with the Golden Gun. That one's the first one with Maude Adams. The second one she's also in Octopussy.
Okay. Wasn't remembering that one. That was the first movie everybody was able to cuss and not get in trouble for.
Yeah, that's that little joke.
The play on words.
Yep.
Again, referring back to Life of Brian.
There you go.
Maximus. Naughtius Maximus.
There you go. Cilia Salis.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wow.
So let's talk about the there's two movies in the James Bond series. One of them is canon, one of them is not canon, and that is Casino Royale.
Casino Royale. Okay. Most people are thinking there's Daniel Craig. No, there was one way back in the day. It was been the actual first James Bond movie ever done. And
well, it wasn't the first done. It came out in '67.
Oh, did it? Okay.
But it was considered a comedy because the main actor was David Niven.
And it was portrayed the way I believe that Ian Fleming wanted it to be.
A little more, yes, it was.
I mean, I think it was the first actual book written, so that's why its importance of kind of being considered the first.
I believe it is too. Might as well look that up here. Make sure we get that information right for you. Oh, you got it open? All right. But now some of the movies, when you heard us talk about, there's 14 books, but there's 26 movies. Some of them were short stories, or they took one section out of the long story and turned it into its own movie.
Yeah, Casino Royale was the first book ever.
Came out in 1953. All right.
For James Bond movies, the one that he's talking about with a short story was Octopussy, The Living Daylights, and For Your Eyes Only.
Yes.
And those were the short stories. Could you imagine if there would have actually been a book?
That would have been interesting.
Because those were actually some of the better movies, and maybe that's the reason why they didn't try to have to follow a book. They had a short story. It's already short enough. We could just go by what's there.
Well, the advantage with movies is you can explore what turns out to be maybe 100 words of a little description. You could turn that into 5 minutes, 10 minutes of filming, going into the nuances of the scenery and getting to that point.
Yeah. You didn't have to get the director's version of,
There you go. And as if you missed it from the beginning, this is correct. Ian Fleming wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And as he also mentioned, and we're confirming that, there was one Bond movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was George Lazenby, the only time one Bond played in only one movie.
Well, you can claim David Nivens too.
There you go.
But yeah, you had to sit there and break it down and everything like that. And like I pointed out, you got the Sean Connery of everybody's going to say best James Bond there ever was. And yes, you're still out there. Please, hey, come on, say how good a time you had doing it.
he did enjoy it, but he retired from the part because he realized he was starting to be too old to be a suave ladies' man. Even though a lot of women will say he got better looking as he got older.
And he's more suave and sophisticated now.
Well, he's passed away now.
But, Roger Moore's gone on, done quite a few things. I mean, he's ended up kind of staying in the action kind of movies, but he ended up being kind of on the bad side. He started to be like, I don't want to say antagonist. That's not the word for it. He would be like the black arms dealer that was helping the good guy get to where he needed to go.
Okay.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to steal the gold dragon.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to say what's your most favorite?
My most favorite would actually probably be Live and Let Die. I mean, the gadgets, the outlets, I mean, it all just came together. I mean, they did try and go feud again, and I mean, just can't really expand too much more. I mean, it was just all like, I mean, you can't get over the 7-Up guy. Just I threw.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I would have known before I saw the movie.
Baron Sunny, yep. And Roger Moore, yes, he was very good in the TV show The Saint, which they did a movie about it with Val Kilmer, which is kind of based on the show from England. But my favorite movie is one that doesn't get a lot of love, The Living Daylights.
Well, I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. I mean,
it was Timothy Dalton, his first movie, but it brought out John Rhys Davies playing a character in there, and I can't think of the actor's name, but he went from being the main bad guy to in the next movie he was, or when a couple movies later he's helping Pierce Brosnan as his.
Talking about the Russian.
Well, he played the arms dealer in The Living Daylights.
Okay, well, not really Russian.
And then he was the American living in Russia.
Okay.
Another stiff ass Brit.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it was the only bad. Well, there are a couple that I don't truly like. I guess that would be more the ones to explore.
Okay.
Moonraker.
Yes.
The only thing that they did wrong with that one was try and have a space battle when there wouldn't be any way for us to really have a space battle yet. They tried to go too futuristic on it.
Yeah. That's kind of everybody's main argument. It was, well, that and the special effects. It's the first time they really tried to add in special effects instead of practical effects, and it didn't work.
Lasers, pew pew, pew pew.
It didn't work. I would definitely agree with that one.
And then for some reason, I know I mentioned that it was the first one I saw that I can remember, but for some reason, For Your Eyes Only, just I don't know, maybe it was just seen it too many times at that time. I mean, it just didn't do a whole lot for me.
Gotcha. I think I would have to add in, besides Moonraker, it would be Die Another Day. I wanted to like it so much, and it's really not well done, not well told. Then you have to listen to Madonna's electronic singing, and because that's another thing. The Bond movies are known for that great big song. There's always a big song attached to it.
There is, and that's why
some of them, the songs got bigger than the movies. So
they did, but I mean, yeah, it just seems like for some reason to me, the Roger Moore series didn't quite do a. They kept the franchise going. Don't get me wrong. It was just, for the most part, a lot of those are the ones that I have, like, yeah, okay, this is going here. This is going. It's almost like it was almost too far all over the place.
Yeah, that is a fair argument. Because they didn't have Spectre for the Roger Moore series, so they kind of just had to create bad guy bosses for him. You know, you can follow the trek from Dr. No through From Russia with Love through Thunderball, all the way down to Diamonds Are Forever. They all are based around Spectre. Spectre is defeated, and now you've got Roger Moore, and he's just fighting one-off bad guys. They're basically all one-off movies.
But in fair point, not to just attack, the Roger Moore series, for Diamonds Are Forever, I don't know why I had kind of a problem with that one. It's the one that Sean Connery came back for.
Yeah, because that was his last one, except for the 1983 movie, Never Say Never Again. But that was the last one, and I liked it, but I can see the flaws in it. There are flaws.
Okay. Well, we gotta move away from bashing a little bit.
It's okay. What do you want to move on to?
Well, we need to get back into getting just upbeat, and I mean, we can. Pierce Brosnan ended up. Well, I can't really say it that way. Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, they did good jobs keeping the franchise going.
Yeah, they did.
Pierce Brosnan started bringing the action and straight pathway back to the movies. They started getting towards the action-packed part of it instead of so much the absolute suaveness.
Well, and the funny thing, when they filmed License to Kill, that was the second movie with Timothy Dalton. They didn't come out with GoldenEye for like 9 years. I don't know why. I thought License to Kill was decent. It was pretty good with Benicio del Toro in the movie.
Well, like I say, I'm not taking away from any of the movies. They were all great in their own way.
But a lot of people felt it hurt the franchise so bad they had to basically reboot the system.
Oh.
That's why they went with a whole new direction, a whole new M, a whole new Q. Or no, they kept Q, but a whole new direction, a whole new way they told the stories. Bringing in Pierce Brosnan. They just made a ton of changes. And I don't know what the hate is on License to Kill.
Just may have been, I don't know. It's the genre changing. It's all it boils down to. The ladies kind of stopped wanting the suave, debonair, kind of character. They wanted the action and like the little, just blink of the eye. Oh yeah, we're gonna go to bed with you. No, come on. Want the imagination. Want the I'm just old school at heart, I guess.
It's okay.
I want more to the imagination.
Fair enough. And yeah, I can see License to Kill was not the most subtle movie.
No.
So I can see that argument. Yep, there it is.
There it is. Yep.
The obligatory Bond girl just because he's got to have a Bond girl. They made it more of the story. So yeah, I can see that because the three Bond girls in License to Kill, they're there because they're there.
It was overdoing it.
They're there because they're there.
Oh, I want to say that. Oh God, what is her name? Oh well. Yeah, they had like 3 of them in that one, and it was just like, you're just going overboard here. Just one, and she can be part of the story now. Yeah. Oh, look, that's where we went.
Exactly.
Yeah. She's just military intelligence now too.
There you go. So I guess going back on that, that's kind of what they had to change directions again. Die Another Day with poor Halle Berry, probably one of the most talented Bond girls with one of the worst parts. I don't know what it is with Halle Berry getting bad movies between Catwoman and Die Another Day.
It's the casting.
Poor Halle.
Well, I mean, you enjoyed this as a child. You enjoyed, Catwoman's been around
and it was god awful.
Well, I'm just saying the character, played by, so many other people and everything like that. And then she got that part for a one-off spin-off kind of thing. And it just kind of didn't take off the way that it probably should have.
She falls off a building and lands in kitty litter, then cats lick her fingers and she comes back to life. And Sharon Stone has invented makeup that makes your skin concrete.
Yeah. There's the other one, Sharon Stone. She has had great parts and bad parts too. So, I mean,
there you go.
Some of you promoters. There we go.
All right.
You need to do a little bit better job.
Well, the casting directors. Yeah. Just because you're pretty doesn't mean you can act. Or doesn't mean you're the right fit for the parts.
Yes. Oh boy. Wake up.
All right. So you have anything else we need to discuss on the Bond series?
Well, I mean, just hey, they're gonna get them out with another one. Hopefully, we didn't turn you off of some of the movies.
Yeah.
You gotta watch them. I mean, if you haven't seen them all, you gotta go back and watch Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton. I mean, most of y'all probably only know Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. I mean,
they're all worth watching. Even the ones that are a little less than stellar, if nothing else, they're worth watching because they do still carry the stories along. Some of the things get referred back to, like Jaws appeared in Moonraker because he ended in the last movie. He was still around. So you have to watch them all because there's always something there to learn from.
And you end up seeing people that you didn't realize, oh yeah, okay. I mean, we already mentioned Christopher Walken. Most people probably, I'll almost guarantee most of y'all don't even know who he is now.
Cowbell.
Okay. Go back and catch up on that too. Just, you got to go and check them out. Just understand, why James Bond is still going today. You wouldn't know that, he was the suave, debonair, just, I mean, I'm sure in some of the first ones, he didn't really have gadgets.
Not too many. And some of them, the Bond girls became famous because of this. Some of them became bigger stars of this. Some of them kind of rebooted their careers, like Sophie Marceau. She's in The World Is Not Enough. You also know her as Murren in Braveheart, the wife character that gets killed with Mel Gibson.
Yes, before he became.
She was a Bond girl.
Reason why he ended up going and doing what he had to do. I mean, there are so many people that it's just like it's like, oh my God, that's why I know her from this. I know her from this. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just a great series. Books were wonderful. Most people don't know I used to like to read a lot and everything like that. Yep. Still do a little bit,
but hopefully we whet your appetite to do a little research. Last week we did that with J.R.R. Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings. This time Ian Fleming. There's a great world out there besides movies. Sometimes the movies are better than the books. Most of the time the books are better than movies, but watch both of them. It's different ways of storytelling, and we're here to try and encourage you to just find out more about these people.
If for nothing else, just to broaden your imagination.
Exactly.
Which is where, Q would end up being able to make his parts because he's got an imagination. Exactly. I mean, he's got a team of people working for him, if anything, still. But, yes, you got to have some imagination if you want to invent the next thing in life.
Exactly. And an imagination is what moves you through life because it's your ability to solve out-of-the-box problems.
All right. So we're not going to be doing anything next week. Next week's Easter. Got a great idea. Wanted to get it past a couple of people that would have ended up being on here, but apparently they just didn't want to show up. Thinking about trying to do a show where we have wrestlers, because that's what this is started based off of, is wrestling and everything like that. Where we take the wrestlers' movie characters. No, I'm not going to take, Hulk Hogan playing Thunder Lips because he's a wrestler. So, yes, he would still be in a wrestling match. Captain Insano from Waterboy, it was one of the suggestions. I got a little research on that one because, again, wrestling part. So, we're going to go a little bit of a bracket, do a contest of such as Hulk Hogan's The Nanny character match again. No, not the Frogtown. No,
They're both awful.
We'll get into getting a bracket system and maybe having the wrestling the movie character as through a
Like that.
So
thank you for joining us for another big session of Big Wil Spotlight.
And again, we ended up making this go for almost an hour with just the two of us. Like I say, we end up having a great time just talking to y'all. Hey, go check us out on YouTube. Follow us there. Yeah.
There you go. Yep, the Dr. Quack podcast, Heart and Soul Promotions. Both of those you can find Big Wil Spotlights. And we're out.